How's it going, guys? JP here. Welcome back to my channel, and this video is going to be something a little bit different. 99.9% of you guys out there come to my channel for one thing, and that's horror. You guys know that I love horror films. That's what my whole entire channel is based on. I also do a couple MMA videos here and there, which there's a few people out there that like those, but I'm sure there's even less people who will be clicking on this video for this reason, for this topic. So I love horror, I love MMA, I also love TV shows, and one TV show in particular I'm a huge fan of, and I really never got a chance to talk about it because I don't really know anybody who's interested in it. And it's kind of looked at as something silly now. It was really big at one time. It's kind of has a almost, I wouldn't say a bad rep, but it's just looked at like, oh, you're still watching that, you know, nowadays. But at the time it was really big, and I've stuck with it for almost 15 years now, and I've always loved this show. So I do know that there are like 2 people that are subscribed to my channel that would be interested in this. So this video is for you 2 people and myself and anybody else who happens to find it surfing the furthest regions of YouTube. So the show that I'm talking about is a classic reality show, and I know that would be shocking to people that I'm a fan of this, but I've actually stated it in our podcast before, but I love this show. I absolutely love this show. It's one of my favorite things to look forward to twice a year, and that show is Survivor. So right here I have the original first season of Survivor, which is season 1, Borneo. And it aired in the year 2000, I believe May 31st of the year 2000. So Survivor, I've watched it for years. I watched season 1, I watched season 2 Australia. Well, actually season 1 I came in about 4 episodes deep into the series. Watched it all the way to the final. Survivor Australia came in. I believe I missed the first couple episodes of Australia, but then watched it through. Of course, Africa. I watched Africa, which is the first season that I watched from beginning to end. And then, of course, Marquesas I watched. And I watched all the way up until Pearl Islands, and then I watched All Stars, and then I fell off. And I continued watching, but I didn't see every episode of every season. I kind of watched, I caught some here and there and watched the finals and stuff until I believe Gabon, which is kind of a weird season to come back because Gabon isn't that great, but that's when I kind of came back. And then I watched all the way up until, you know, Heroes versus Villains, and once I believe Samoa, when Russell and them was introduced, that's when I really came back, and of course Heroes versus Villains, and then all the way up until now, which was the last season was Cagayan, and I loved that season. It kind of reignited my love for Survivor, and as time went on, I did go back through the internet and watched all the old seasons that I missed, you know, especially between like All Stars and Gabon. I went back and rewatched all of those seasons. So as of right now, I've seen every single episode to every season. Some of the seasons I've seen a couple times, like All Stars. And I kind of, after watching Cagayan, I'm really excited for Blood vs. Water 2, and of course the season 30, which is, I'm sure, is going to be something pretty big. But it got me interested to go back and start from the beginning, start from season 1 and go back and watch the series. And I believe a lot of I don't think all of the seasons are on DVD yet, but I think most of them are. And season 1, of course, was released on DVD. Some of the other ones are through Amazon's manufacture on demand, so they're a bit more pricey. But the original seasons that were released under, I guess, Paramount, and CBS, they're actually pretty cheap. I got this one pretty much new for $10 on eBay. I thought that was a very fair price. And some of the other seasons, like 2 and I believe Palau, you can get for very cheap also. So I'm gonna grab season 1, and then I'll grab Africa, or Australia, then Africa, which is Africa, I believe, is one of the more expensive ones. And I just want to go through and watch all the seasons again. And I hope to have that done by maybe Survivor 30. So, yeah. And the idea behind this video is I just want to make a video after I watch every episode. Short little video. This video, of course, is going to be a little bit longer because it's the introduction. But I want to keep them, 3 to 5 minutes per episode. And I'm just going to, catalog and file away my thoughts on each episode because, I don't know, I've always wanted to talk about Survivor. Why not? Probably not many people will watch these. They have a possibility of maybe after a while, maybe some people will check them out, just surfing YouTube, but it's not really exactly for a lot of people. It's just for the people who care and myself, because I want to talk about Survivor, and at least when I'm talking to the camera, it feels like I'm talking to somebody else about Survivor. So I feel really, really odd right now because I don't know anybody besides 1 or 2 people on my channel who will even watch this video, and I'm not used to that, but I'm gonna talk about Survivor anyway. So season 1, I remember season 1 being good at the time, but looking back, after All Stars and even the Amazon, it was a good season. You just look back and it's not a very strategic season, and I always felt like people overrated it. I mean, of course it is the beginning, so it's gonna have a special place in history, but I just always felt like people give it too much credit compared to the other seasons. You can't really take away the huge hit that it was, but at the same time, in terms of what we got after, comparing it to the other seasons, it doesn't stack up in terms of my favorites. But that's why I'm rewatching it. I've only seen it one other time since it aired, and it was a long time ago. So I'm really interested to go back and check it out. So I watched the first episode, which the first episode, which aired May 31st, 2000. One thing right off the bat is how young Jeff Probst looks, which is funny, but 2, how serious they take it. At first, this show was really about the survival, and that's why I was immediately interested, because I love survival. I love pushing yourself to the limits. How far can a human go without any food and low water and stuff like that. I love Survivor Man, so that kind of always interested me the most. And the show has really moved away from the survival aspect. They barely even talk about it anymore, which is kind of, I think they they don't make, it's not as hard anymore. I think they give them more food and more opportunity for food than they used to in the early seasons. And I wish they would go back to the survival aspect a bit more. But I also noticed, how serious they take everything. Like you must walk through a treacherous jungle on your way to tribal council, where many mysteries and danger, is ahead of you or something. They really are selling the dangers that these people might face. And the social aspect really isn't there as much. Of course, there's some definitely good characters in this one. You got Rudy, of course, Richard, Sue, Jervis, so some good people. Right away in the opening episode, I never really liked Richard Hatch too much, but going back and watching this episode now, so many years later, I gotta say, man, he's, as everybody's kind of moving around in the opening when they first hit the beach, you can see you know, especially now that I'm older and more mature and kind of have a grasp on things, you can really see his strategic mind ticking from the moment he enters the game. And that's really interesting, you know, because knowing the history of Survivor now and going back and watching it, you can really see that he was so far ahead of everybody else. And I find that really cool. To be able to see like his thoughts and things going right away as soon as the game starts, and he was ahead of his time because, as we know, Survivor really didn't get that strategic until, you know, a couple seasons later. Now it's all about the strategy, but it's funny to see early on, you know, the vote. It was it was interesting to see that um, there's not a whole lot of talks about, you know, alliances and stuff early on, and who we're gonna vote out, and that's you know, definitely not like New Survivor. Um, I gotta say, man, Rudy is really entertaining. I kind of forgot about some of the characters on the other tribe, like BB. That guy, oh man, that dude is just working hard. Everybody's kind of not really helping him, but he doesn't want help, but at the same time he complains about nobody helping him. Very entertaining stuff there. Um, I really thought the very first challenge was really weak. It's funny looking back that like that was the episode that was supposed to catapult this show, and it's not a great first episode. Um, for a premiere, it's kind of just mediocre. But you know, looking back on it now, it's really interesting to me to, you know, see after I know the history. But I can't see this episode being that entertaining when it first aired. But it had to have been because everybody was talking about this show. And I can't wait till it gets. We don't see a lot of people. I know Colleen is in this season, which uh, you don't. I believe you don't even hear anything. She doesn't get a confessional or anything. There's a lot of characters who don't even get a confessional early on or even really talk. Sue, I found to be very funny and crazy. You know, just she's a little wild. Thinking back at some of the, I really don't remember this season, so I'm kind of interested to see where it goes and some of the moments, because I definitely forgot a lot of the moments throughout time, and it's gonna be cool to relive some of this. I was pretty much smiling the whole first episode just because it's really nostalgic, and just seeing these characters interact with each other and not really know what they're doing. It's just such in its infancy that you kind of smile like at the fact that there's like no strategy, and they're just kind of taking it so serious. Um, you know, both from a production standpoint and, you know, the contestants' seriousness about survival. You never see that anymore, and I miss it. So yeah, I think I'll wrap this one up. The first episode was not fantastic in terms of you know, entertainment, but at the same time it is. But it's only because I have these nostalgic goggles and these, you know, historic these goggles filled with the history of the show, looking back on it. So yeah, Survivor Season 1. I'm actually really excited about this. I think this is going to be a lot of fun to revisit a lot of these early seasons, because I really don't remember a whole lot about them. Except for Australia, because I did watch that one more recently. So that one I'll remember quite a bit. So, you know, I would be really surprised if there's very many people watching this. So I'm gonna keep doing them regardless. But you know, I'll see you guys in episode 2. And I guess I'll say this now. I'll say it at the beginning of episode 2. There will be spoilers in this because it's kind of hard to talk about what's going on in the show without spoilers. So I will be spoiling the show. So yeah, later guys.